Hello everyone, it's Turin here, and today guys, I'm here with another Total War Warhammer online commentary. In this battle, I'm going to be playing Bretonnia, and I'm going to be facing off against the Greenskins, which is always a pretty good excuse to get the Green Knight. He is a really strong pick here, as the Greenskins do not have many ways of dealing with ethereal units. So, aside from that, I just have a front line of battle pilgrims, and these guys are an incredibly cost-effective unit versus lightly armored troops. And as you guys probably know, the Greenskins are a very lightly armored faction, and Black Orcs really aren't a great pick versus like very unit-dense factions. They have a little bit of trouble getting through like big groups of fodder and peasants and things like that in an effective manner. So Battle Pilgrims, in my opinion, are the ideal frontline choice. On top of that, I do have the Grail Reliquae in the back, and of course the Fey Enchantress, who does have some really good tools against the Greenskins. I mean, Lore of Life, generally speaking, is extremely strong, but she also does have the Mist of the Lady. So you guys see that area of effect? Everyone in that area is essentially going to get hit by like a Mortis Engine style effect, and also get -8 melee attack. So she is just so good for her cost. Granted, King Louis isn't bad at all for like sniping out like Greenskin Lords and their casters and things like that, but I really think from a competitive perspective, she's the best choice. On top of that, I do have two Peasant Bowmen with POX arrows, which I like quite a bit against Savage Orcs, which are pretty much the kind of standard go-to pick against Bretonnia. Do very well against lightly armored troops, and the poison effect is quite nice. On top of that, I do have two Spearmen at Arms in the flanks, and Greenskins in general aren't really going to bring very strong cav. I mean, they're going to bring their best cav, but still they're not going to be great against the peasants with spears. They're very lightly armored, so you don't really need to get like halberds or things like that. Just these like cheap peasants that cost like 250 apiece are very good at securing your flanks. Worst case scenario, you can kind of like throw them up in the front line to help out. I have another group on the far side. I do have some Knights of the Realm here who I like quite a bit. Very cheap. They have a good anti-large bonus, so when they're fighting against like Orc Boars or Goblin Big Bosses or things like that, they can do pretty well. And for how cheap they are, they also have a fairly substantial charge bonus. So let's see what else we got going on. We do have the Royal Pegasus Knights over here on the far side, which I like quite a bit. It's funny, I'm going through like every unit. I'm like, I love this one and this one, but they are very strong. With an anti-large bonus, they can help do really like devastating rear charges against like the Orc Boars and things like that. So if you're ready to like bait a cav with the Knights of the Realm and then like fly around and do a rear charge with the Royal Pegasus Knights, you can seriously kill an entire group of like Orc Boar Boy Biggins like instantly. Lastly, but not least, I do have some Mounted Yeomen hidden over the forest with their little pitchforks. But, hey, against like hunting Goblin Archers and things like that, I don't think they're a bad choice for how cheap they are. So that's pretty much my whole army here. So let's go ahead and take a look at my opponent. So a whole front line of Savage Orc Biggins mixed in with the Night Goblins here, the Regiment of Renown that do have the poison and unbreakable effects. I believe he does have some, does he have any Savage Orc Biggins? No, it just looks like Savage Orcs, but still, they do pretty well. And they, if I'm not mistaken, the Savage Orcs for 550 resources can actually destroy Foot Squires and like beat them like head to head. So that was a big change in the meta. But they do well against Battle Pilgrims also, so a very well-rounded pick. Granted, they are weak to missile fire and charges from cav. He has some regular Orc Biggins on the flanks. On top of that, he does have the traditional Orc firing line here with the Night Goblin Archers and the Rusty Arrows, with two Goblin Big Bosses and a Orc War Boss, which is a bit of a standard safe pick as he can carry potions, and of course the Night Goblin Shaman, which does have the sneaky stealing, so definitely going to mitigate some of the effects of my healing. Some Forest Goblin Spider Riders in the back, some Orc Boar Boy Biggins over here, an additional group of Forest Goblin Spider Riders mixed in with Orc Boar Boy Biggins. So very cool composition for my opponent. But anyways, without further ado, and my apologies for the long-winded introduction, let's have some fun. So a tactic I really like to do here with the Green Knight is I simply just charge him in right away. So I charge in, gets all these group guys kind of like mugged up on him, and then I'm able to start like firing in and doing some like pretty good damage with my peasant arrows. So the poison's really gonna like slow these guys down from charging. You can see they're definitely not enjoying this, although I don't think I've killed any models yet. Regardless, it's going to be pretty good. So they're going to charge in here, but still their speed has been slowed down to 29. So they're very like kind of trudging here, taking a ton of missile fire. And the Green Knight's able to kind of just like screw up their whole formation. So now a lot of his troops are going to kind of engage in a weird staggered formation. And you can see this is pretty much what everyone does, is they do like a very aggressive like dive on the Green Knight. They see him, they think he's vulnerable, but really like even all these heroic units and these Savage Orcs are going to take like half an hour to kill him. So my advice would be just muck him up with like goblins and just leave him alone. There's no point in killing the Green Knight. Just save him for last, in my opinion, because one regrowth is going to mitigate all this damage here. So in the front, we have a pretty wild fight between the Savage Orcs and the Battle Pilgrims here. Fairly even. I'd actually be interested in doing some testing to see how that really plays out, but I think the Savage Orcs would win due to their 30% resistance, although this guy being headless would speak to differ. But aside from that, we're getting a pretty good engagement here in the front line. The Goblins are all kind of getting in there, going pretty ham-bone. Over here on the far side, we do have some additional Savage Orcs engaging with some of my Battle Pilgrims on the far flank. So as far as the cav play, my opponent's kind of just sitting in the forest. I think he was expecting some sort of like flanking tactics from me, so he's just keeping his Orc Boars and his Forest Goblin Spider Riders over there, while the Green Knight's able to do some really good isolation play here. I do have my Mounted Yeoman kind of doing a bit of a flanking tactic, and I am keeping my Knights of the Realm in auxiliary. I wanted to see what he was going to do with his cav force before I really committed. And you can see my Pegasus Knights are kind of just sweeping over the battlefield, trying to find a bit of a niche for them to fit in. So over here, I didn't really feel pressure from the flank, so I just throw in some of these spears to really help out, because these Orc Biggins are just beating the hell out of these Battle Pilgrims. So it really goes to show that the difference of that 50 armor makes. I mean, it's a big deal there. So The Green Knight continuing to just tank this whole formation and even kill rout off a Goblin Big Boss there. And the Mounted Yeomen are coming in pretty hot in the back, though my opponent's going to be able to react pretty easily here. They're still going to get in and do some pretty good work and, shut down that missile fire. And for their pitchforks, I mean, the amount of damage they'll do to this, like, Goblin Horde here, I think it's worth it, even if they just get completely wiped out here. So they push in, but my opponent is going to realize this. He does have his troops over in the forest. And you can see I am sitting my Royal Pegasus Knights over here, just kind of hanging back, waiting to see what he was doing here. He is going to be pressuring the flank with Biggins, so this is going to be a really, really bad trade for me. These Biggins are just going to slam into my guys and this is just going to be a straight up massacre. Like, these Spearmen are just going to get devastated. So I pulled in the Royal Pegasus Knights to do a bit of a rear charge, try and cover them, but I did realize that it was kind of a bad idea because they're anti-large. So I decided to just pull out and kind of forsake those guys there, which was a little bit unfortunate, but what can you do? So the Boars actually decided to go right up the pipe, and, it's not a terrible choice because they do well against, sword infantry, or infantry that don't have spears. So you can see they're bringing the bacon pretty hard in here. There's some battle pilgrims flying about, but still, it's not going to be devastating. And once the charge does kind of like settle, I should be able to do some pretty good work. And I do bring in the Fey Enchantress with their unicorn, who's going to back these guys up, and they should get routed off pretty quickly. Their leadership isn't the best, so. Over in the back, my opponent has dealt with my Mounted Yeoman. He did push them off, but if you guys can see, like, the amount of resources he invested to, like, fend those guys off was really, really advantageous for me because that really allowed my Pegasus Knights to escape freely and, a bunch of other good things to happen there. So I did position my Knights of the Realm over in the flank, and I was preparing to get a charge here. And you can see in the back line, I was going to essentially just hunt down his troops that were kind of scattered in the back. So this Green Knight, just an absolute MVP. So my opponent definitely should have just, like, peeled those units off and left, like, one group to tie him down. So over here, you can see the Pegasus Knights are pretty good for, like, hunting down the scraps, keeping that Goblin Big Boss off the battlefield. And unfortunately, I did miss a very, very cool charge there. But the Knights of the Realm are now online, and he has a lot of, like, scattered, routed units. So essentially, what I wanted to do is just, like, charge them down and make sure to kill them all and just keep these guys from coming back, because in a close fight, that can make all the difference. So over here in the front, you can see my front line has been compromised. My peasants are having to kind of kite back here, and I do have the wedge formation charge coming in pretty hot. So I know you guys were asking for some Bretonnia cav play. That wasn't just Pegasus Knights. So the Knights of the Realm making a grand epic appearance. Very, very heroic and chivalrous, getting in there pretty deep with those lances. So these Savage Orcs are definitely not going to have a good time. And, these guys do have 80 armor. So against Savage Orcs, they literally just got rode through, like, horribly there. So that was very cool. But they're up to 18 kills, and they're definitely going to have a lot more before all is said and done. But still, the front line of mine has been compromised a little bit. The Orc War Boss here, though, not in the best shape, kind of fighting a big mucked up pile of infantry. And the Fey Enchantress is doing a pretty good job just kind of scurrying around, draining things, while the Green Knight just continues to terrorize. Although in the back, he did chase off some of my peasants. They're getting massacred back here by the goblins. Definitely. Oh, that guy did like a flying karate kick. I actually haven't seen a goblin do a kick animation, but I guess they do. So in the back, though, the peasant horde is struggling a little bit. Some spears are coming back from rout, but these Regiment of Renowned Goblins are not pushovers. They actually do have 36 melee attacks. So very, very good stuff there. My peasants here are continuing to fight, doing a little bit of crossfire, but my opponent's army is very fragmented now, and my Royal Pegasus Knights are kind of riding around, cleaning up shop, hunting down heroic units, and the Knights of the Realm are just absolute monsters right now. They're just like annihilating these Savage Orcs in the back, having racked up 56 kills since the last we looked when they had 18, so pretty good stuff from them as well. Over here in the front, you can see the big bosses are kind of routing off, and at this point, all the flying goon squad is just on the hunt, and these boars are just getting turned into some prime bacon over here. So very, very tough stuff, but hopefully for my opponent they can come back. But let's go ahead and see kind of an overarching view of things. Balance power pretty heavily in my favor right now. I do have 300 troops left. He has 570. Granted, it's not really an accurate reflection of things because he does have a ton of goblins and, like, low tier troops that come at extremely high unit densities. But he is getting some really good fire here, and these Bacons are putting up a pretty good fight. Like, they're beating, like, holding these guys in place. Oh, look at that Grail Relic Way just massacre that guy. That was pretty awesome as well. But the Fey Enchantress is going to be a really, really big game changer here. She's incredibly tough to kill and quick, and I believe she has pretty high magic resist. Is it? Let's actually go ahead and take a look. Yeah, I believe it is magic resist, but let's look just to be safe. So she's kind of prancing around on a unicorn there, going to get in there. I wonder if the unicorn has like an animation where it actually like spears something. I think that would be so cool if she actually like impaled something on the unicorn. That would be really funny. So over here in the back, you see the Green Knight still just being an absolute terror. He's almost at his healing cap, so that's nice for my opponent. And he was able to get a pretty good surround of my Knights of the Realm, so they're kind of getting like dragged into the pits by all these angry boars and biggins back here. So I'm having to retreat, but I did take some pretty massive casualties on those guys. So that was a little bit unfortunate, but let's see how many kills. They're up to 100 kills now, so very, very good for, you know, the 1,000 resources that I did put in. Over in the back, the Royal Pegasus Knights are just sniping out this Night Goblin Shaman, who does get off an itchy nuisance before he meets his demise by spear. And the Fey Enchantress and her kind of her Doom Blob over here is kind of pushing forward. You can see I do have a very healthy line of Battle Pilgrims with the Grail Relic Way. So their leadership is actually still up around like 80 or 90, even this late in the game, which is really, really powerful. So these boards are pushing in here, but they probably won't be able to do too much. The Green Knight kind of like screws up their AI a little bit. You can see the Goblins are just getting their salads tossed by these spears back here. Just these like royal epic knights just like killing the most lowly creature in this this roster over here. So pretty good stuff. Aside from that, my Knights of the Realm and Mounted Diem, I believe, are back online, so they should be able to kind of help come clean up. But at this point, most of my opponent's forces are going to start routing off. This Orc War Boss is coming in for a valiant last stand. I don't think he has his potions left, so he's probably going to be able to get taken out by these Pegasus Knights, because when he is on his pig, I believe he is considered a large unit, so that should make a little bit of a difference. But you can see here the Battle Pilgrims and the Fey Enchantress are kind of pushing in the fourth quarter. But the Biggins are still fighting, and the Biggins were actually really good performers this game. They actually like fought like pretty hard, and oh, look at that, those arrows right in the face there. But I wonder if like a front line of Biggins would be a little bit more cost effective, because Battle Pilgrims seem to be like the intuitive choice. But you know, the armor, the 50 armor of the Biggins could make a little bit of damage mitigation and could help out in the long run. So I still think that Savage Orcs are a very cheap and good pick, but, you know, just something to think about. So we are pushing in here, but for the most part, most of my opponent's forces are routed. You can see his Orc War Boss here is going to come in and make a bit of a last stand, but my Pegasus Knight should be able to kind of route off and chase down what missiles he has left. And, you know, I think that's pretty much it. So let's go ahead and take a look around and see what else is going on. Knights of the Realm are back, so I guess they hadn't been back yet. But the Fey Enchantress, like, in really close, long battles like this, is so incredibly powerful with that Miss of the Lady. But look at this Orc War Boss just being a true boss in here, just kind of fighting, doing the boys proud. But with the Green Knight and all the other guys kind of surrounding him, he's going to go down here pretty quick. Although he does still have his potion of foolhardiness and toughness, so you know, he's got a little bit going on. But that's pretty much it. If we take a look around, you can see all my opponent's forces are routing. Definitely some good stuff from the Cav. They were able to like really fly around and pick off a lot of high value targets, because Greenskins are one of those factions that do route very quickly. So anytime you can like isolate a routing unit and just make sure it stays off, and then just kind of compound your you know, kills that you already have on that unit, it can do pretty well for you. So regardless, very well played to my opponent, Zeva Guapo. It was quite a bit of fun. Look forward to seeing you again on ladder, and I hope you guys enjoyed that Bretonnia cast. Have an excellent night and take care.